All right, everybody. Welcome to the Grind and Gratitude Show. I am Danny Stone, also known as Coach Stone. Look, if you've been tuning in, you know that when I do this solo thing, I do my best to give you information that's going to help you to move your life forward. But you also know that when I bring a guest, you know it's fireworks because you guys DM me all the time and say, I love your guests. Well, guess what? I finally tracked this man down. I've been trying to track this guy down for a very long time.
Easy.
He's
Has
always
not been easy.
He's always on a plane somewhere. He's in Jamaica and Dubai, but I finally tracked him down. You guys are in for a treat. Let me give you a little bit about who this man is. He's a stand-up comedian. He's an entertainer. He's a public figure and a Renaissance man. I really like that part. He's dazzled sold-out audiences with top-notch comedians across Canada, the United States, and the Caribbean. Dubbed as the Canadian Steve Harvey, he has soared to the top of his game, and I can attest to that. I've been to a lot of his sold-out shows. 14, 15,000 people show up to see this guy, and he doesn't just put on comedy shows. He puts on a comedy experience. He's a singer. He's an entertainer. He's a comedian. He's a motivational speaker. I don't know what else this guy, I mean, that should be enough, but he does so much more. He's a sought-after comedian who's done tons of events. He shared the stage with people like Jamie Foxx, Brian McKnight, Russell Peters, Eddie Griffin, Tommy Davidson, and Cedric The Entertainer, just a few of the people that he shared the stage with. He's been doing this for a very long time, since 2003. You do the math on that. Now, he took a brief hiatus from stand-up comedy in 2019, and this year he's been doing a lot of phenomenal things, even in the midst of the pandemic. What you need to know is that he's working on his romantic comedy called Destination Wedding. Can't wait to see that. It's gonna be funny. It's gonna be hilarious. So I can't wait to see that. He's just an all-round Renaissance man, a brother that a lot of people look to for inspiration in difficult times, to give you the realness, but also to give you some jokes to uplift your spirit. I have none other than the one and only Mr. J. Martin. Welcome to the show.
Yo, that was the greatest intro of all time. Like, I just want you to chop that up for me, D, and give it to me. And I was like, excuse me, corporate companies, for $10,000, look at what you get. And just send you in. Like, I need that piece. What's going on, my brother? Not even from another mother. It's another father, mother, sister, brother. You, my man. What's going on?
Listen, bro, listen. I'm excited that you're here because, when I first thought about the podcast a while ago, I was like, you were one of the very first people I thought about, to be honest with you. I was like, man, because for me, I met you 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I loved about you when I first met you is like, we didn't know each other. We chopped it up here and there. We'd see each other in different places. And, I've always heard great things about you. I've always heard like Jay is just the realest, he's not somebody who's let this comedy thing or his fame kind of go to his head. Right. And so when I was thinking about the Grind and Gratitude Show, I'm like, I'm definitely going to get you on here. So thanks so much for being here.
Hey man, this is an absolute pleasure. And you had me from grinding. Like the name alone just was like, yo, Greg, that's right. That's what we do. Like, right. So when you said it, first of all, hats off to you. I'm not going to take all the fame. I know we play this tennis game and bounce it back and forth. He is absolutely right. All of the listeners and viewers who follow him and watch his books and his motivation, like him and I just keep going back at each other and keeping each other in check. And even if we don't see each other, we check on each other to make sure we good. And I mean, that's been a relationship over the last 7 years, as you said, that's just gotten better and stronger. You know what I mean? Where it could be like, yo, can I bounce something off you? And we're going to get the real. So as much as you're saying these nice things about you, I got to reciprocate it because you've been an edgestone in the community. You've been coaching people, bringing relationships back, keeping it real. People are living vicariously through you. So keep doing what you're doing. And now to expand something you just started this year to go across all these countries with so many people enjoying it and looking forward to it. I'm just honored to be on the team. Get my name called.
Man.
Oh, put me in the game.
Man, this guy's trying to make me tear up. But yo, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. But let's kind of get into it. So
yeah,
I mean, you've been a comedian since what, 2003, right?
Correct. About 2003, I officially decided to be a comedian. But let's be real, a comedian is born. It's not created. You feel me? I
Well,
feel so.
So did you always know that you were funny though?
It started like I had funny thoughts. I'm not gonna lie. I always knew I had funny thoughts. I didn't think I'd be able to deliver those thoughts. I mean, that was garnered through a lot of different stages to get to that stage. People always go, I want to do this, but it took a long time for it to manifest within me to be able to know that's there. Like as a child, I always thought funny things to my cousins. I actually made them laugh a lot till some of them, I gotta pee, stop, I gotta pee. So they were cousins, but out in the public, especially the public I grew up in, because I grew up in the church from an Adventist background. You know, me and you both know Martine. I know Martine like from she's born, wow. But shout outs to the Lopez's. But yeah, in that environment, it just kind of not restricted you. It just had everything be, you know, I mean, a holy covenant. So thoughts of comedy, especially then, it was like, what do I do? You know what I mean? I was a comedian and a soccer player were the best things I did as a kid. Right. And those things had their limit growing up from a religious background. So in my head, I always thought I was a comedian, but I never let it out.
And so, you know, that's interesting, you know, coming from the sort of religious background that you came from, you know, where do you think these comedic thoughts came from? Were they things that you saw in the church, or were they just things that just randomly were there?
Let's be clear here. You want to play soccer as a 9-year-old boy or a 10-year-old boy on a Saturday. And every time you came to school, you know what I mean? You just heard of all the cartoons kids were watching on Saturday, how they played in hockey, baseball, soccer leagues on Saturday, what they were doing. So most of my concepts came from what they were doing. You know what I mean? What are they doing? And when I came back, I didn't want to say I sat in the church for the whole day. So I had to create things to be funny, to be a part of the people. Do you know what I mean? I was always popular as a child. I don't know why, but kids always gravitated to me. What's Jason doing? What's Jason doing? What's he doing? What's he doing? So it always was around me. So I had to tell stories, but it was hard when you didn't have anything doing but church. So, you know, you could tell 2 church stories, but after that, they was like, so tell us the real thing. So my storytelling started early.
Wow. I mean, that's great. I think, and so when you would get out here and sort of start to tell these stories, would people start to say like, oh, you're funny, and sort of start to prop you up to tell more and more jokes and say, hey, you got to come here, Jason, say this, and here, Jason. Right. Was it that kind of environment?
No, you nailed that. I'm going to put that in something if I ever do a book. Well, first of all, if I ever do a book, you're the first guy I'm calling because you know how to deal with books. I'm going to call you and Dwayne Morgan and be like, it's a J. Martin book. But that is exactly it. There would be like a kids at school I would tell something to, and they'd go and tell other kids, and then I'd have to tell the story again and tell the story again. And I always, even as a child, I'd always tell stories with animation, hand movements, phrases. I would change my voice tones as a kid to imitate my parents and my aunts and my uncles and my cousins from a childhood day. So I was always like, no, I'd be in a group and they'd be like, no, let Jay tell it. Let Jay tell it. Okay. Because it came that way. But I'm going to be very transparent with you. In no way, like when I say no way, D, no way did I ever think that this could ever be a job. Like, I didn't even think that existed. Even when I saw some of my heroes in comedy, which I'm sure we'll talk about, I never saw them doing stand-up. You understand what I mean? So I never saw stand-up. I never thought stand-up was a thing. Like, nah, not at all. I didn't even know it existed. Like, you're watching Sanford and Son. You're watching all these shows with different comedians and movies in them when you got a chance. Never once. I didn't even think Bill Cosby was a comedian. I was like, oh, that's Huxtable, but what? He's great. I love him. But I never knew there was something before it.
That's a great point. That's a really good point. And I don't know how much people actually think about that, because most of us were introduced to comedy through TV shows and movies. Correct. Like when we were growing up, we never had access to see people actually perform on a stage. Like we never saw that. So that's an actually interesting point where you look at a comedian, but he was like a movie star, a TV star who was funny. right?
Correct. I mean, every comedian I know that we par with, and we're a fraternity, everybody is there. All of them, you ask them, how'd you start? They're like, oh man, Carlin and Pryor. And they named them off. Oh, when I saw Eddie Murphy Raw, I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I didn't see Eddie Murphy Raw until like 7 to 10 years after it
Oh,
came out,
wow. Really?
because I
Okay.
wasn't old enough to see it. That stuff wasn't allowed in my house.
Right.
So I didn't see Bill Cosby until I was a man. Like, these
Right.
people doing stand up, I never saw it, man, because you're right. We saw it through TV because that stuff just wasn't allowed.
Man, that's really interesting. So growing up then, what was what was the thing that you wanted to be? If you never thought of being a
Right.
comedian was a job, like what was your thing? What did you want to be?
To be honest with you, I always had those report cards. I don't know if you got them too. Jason is the class clown. Jason disrupts the other kids. He's working hard. He's trying. All of those things. But I was like, what am I gonna be? I had older brothers. I'm the last of 7 siblings.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I have 3 older brothers, 4 older sisters. So I'm like the baby of everything, and I knew I had to do something bigger and better, but I didn't know what it was. And when I finally chalked it down, I wanted to be a lawyer. I thought if I wasn't going to be a lawyer, it would give me an opportunity. I love talking. I would treat, listen, when you're the class clown from second grade, there's not many teachers jumping out there expecting much from you, especially with the era we grew up in. You know what I mean? So they'd come across your desk, and whatever you said was always gifted as a joke. So they always assumed that you were going to be in some kind of trade. You know what I mean? And it's funny because my father was an extreme, not even a little, extreme carpenter. His precision was incredible. He
Wow.
built Laura Secords, part of the CN Tower,
Wow.
um, all those Black's photographies, People's Jewelers, all of those in the malls. They shut them doors in the malls. He's in there till the end of the night,
That's
making
amazing.
everything like tight. So he was always that kind of guy, and I failed woodworking. I was not even. I did it to try. I remember taking drafting, and I was like, "This ain't gonna work." Like, I'm dropping this class week 2. You know what I mean? I was like, "This isn't gonna work. It's just not gonna work." And my parents divorced when I was young, when I was 5. So I, of course, lived with my mother, and my mother was a prolific cook,
Mm.
unbelievable. So when you talk about this hustle and grind, like I know we'll get into it, but that's where it started for me. Like everyone, and I'm gonna be so open, transparent here because this is why I feel at home. So I wanted to be. Every kid wants to be like their dad, you know what I
Right.
mean? But I didn't have those skills. I'm not a tradesman. I'm just not a tradesman. But my mom, and I didn't even know this till I was later, my brother told me, my mom walked with a limp. Like she
Mm.
had like a limp. It's like her toe kind of turned in when she walked. And
Mm.
if I can describe it, it's kind of like Usual Suspects. You've seen the movie Usual Suspect
Yeah.
with Kaiser
Yeah.
Soze?
Yeah.
How he walked?
Yeah.
That's how my mother walked. But I thought that's just something that happened to her while she walked that way. It wasn't until I was older that my brother told me it was when I was born. There's a way I laid on her pelvis that caused that to happen.
Wow.
So when he told me that, I think I was about what 12, and he
Whoa.
was like, I was like, man, I run fast when I play soccer. Like I'm, all my friends know 0 to 50, ain't nobody catch me. 51, they gonna catch me, dude.
51.
They gonna catch 51 yards. Oh, they're gonna catch me. 0 to 50, he's flying. 49, 50, got him. Like, it's like got him. And I was like, why am I so fast? Like, you know what I mean? Because my mom walks with a limp. You see your dad walking, you don't see that much athleticism. My dad was tall, but he didn't really have athleticism. So why am I flying? And they're like, mom used to win races. And I was like, really? But she's like, but they're like, when you were born. I'm like, what? So I felt that internalized feeling that I did it. You get what I
Wow.
mean? And it was a lot to bear because I was like, what? So of course, my boy and his mom are close, but there's an extra closeness. So when I heard that, and mom's was like, go upstairs and get this, go downstairs and get that, I more got it because I had to. And because she was so prolific in the kitchen, it was me and her. You
Wow.
understand what I mean? So when me and her are doing the things and we're cooking and baking, I didn't even know. So what happened with the injury, it caused her to lose her job by the time I was in middle school. So she was like a stay-at-home mom. And I'm not even thinking it because as kids, we don't know when the mortgage is paid.
Right,
We don't know
right.
how much it is. But she's hustling, D. She's hustling. And I mean to the levels of restaurants are coming from Rochester, New York to Canada to buy like 500 beef patties.
Are you serious?
And she's like making each patty and I'm kneading them out and I'm putting the fork to make them round. Like,
wow.
System running. But I'm just thinking that's how everyone's house is.
Right.
You understand what I mean? I never knew, you know what I mean? So now she's like, here, practice this because I got 19 cakes and I need you to ice in them. So I'm icing cakes. I'm making bun. Wow. I'm selling bun at school. Like I walk into grade 4 teachers. You're where are you from? I'm from Trinidad. You want to buy bun? You're $8. Like my mom taught me hustle.
Oh man.
Without me knowing hustle. So I'm sitting here going, I gotta help, but it's just what our thing is to do. And she'd throw partners, she'd make bun, she'd make cakes, but like at a high level, high level. So by the time I'm like 16, and it's unfortunate because my mom had cancer from the time I was 15 to 16. And it's like she knew, so she taught me how to make all these things. So a lot of people were like, how do you learn to cook? But she just didn't want her son, when she's gone, to not have nothing to eat. You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
So it's straight hustle. And she taught me all these things early. So now as a kid, like I'm good now.
Right.
But I was great then because there's a story I'm going to give you, and I'm sure your listeners are going to love this story because they can relate to the people. There's an actor by the name, you're gonna know him. He's in Book of Negroes. He's a Canadian actor. Lyric Ben.
Oh yes.
Okay, so Lyric Ben's wife went to church with me as a kid, and I had a big crush on her. Big crush. I hope she sees this. And I hope she sees Lyric. Trust me, I didn't have your wife, but I liked your wife. and it's gonna be fun with us, D. We
of course.
We chopping it up. And I had a big crush on her, and I ended up saying, yo, I need you to come to my house, and I'll make you whatever you want. And she was like, okay. Why don't you make cheesecake? I like cheesecake. I'm like, all right. I like Black Forest cake. And I don't remember the third one. It was Black Forest cheesecake. I think lemon meringue pie. But all of these things, I'm firing them off. And my mom had already passed and left me her baking equipment. So I'm flying, man. I'm flying. And I'm doing anything to get her. And I sent her home with like pieces of these 3 cakes, and she's like, "They're amazing."
Really?
I open, and I'm like, "Oh man, you like it? You like it?" And we just want that kiss. You know?
Of course, that's all you want.
I'd have made 300 cakes for a kid. Whoa, that's a lot for a kiss. But it's the 80s, and funny enough, she goes, we get to the mall, and the mall used to have these the kiosks in the middle of the mall. And you could get a phone book in there. Remember, we used to write them girls' numbers in the phone book. For sure. Closed up the little tiny miniature one. And she goes to the guy, "Can you put 2 names on this phone book?" And I was like, damn,
wow, okay.
And she wrote, and I'll never forget this. She wrote, I won't say her name. I'll save that, but we know it's Lyric Ben's wife. But she wrote, "Her name loves Rudy." And I was like, no, but my name's
oh no.
I was like, who is this Rudy guy?
That's what she was taking the cake for.
So I'm on the search for this Rudy guy because I just can't believe 3 cakes didn't win, D. Man. 3 cakes didn't win.
Wow.
And I found the Rudy guy in Rexdale. He went to the school NACI, and my cousin went to NACI. And I'm like, I need to see this guy. Like, I need closure because this was like a funeral. I need closure.
How old were you at that time? How old were you?
I was like 18, 17.
Wow.
Like 18 to 17. So I take the bus to Rexdale where lives get lost easily. I stomached it. I went to the school, and my cousin is there. And he's like, yo, all right, he's coming. And I see this guy walk by, a skinny guy. He's got a Michael Jackson jacket on. He has like natural curls, not Jerry's. You can tell the difference between Jerry's and naturals.
Wow.
He had natural curls, but skinny guy walks by. And I'm like, that dude in the Michael Jackson jacket? And he was like, yeah. And then 5 minutes later, this cute girl walks by with a little tint in her hair. And I'm like, ooh, like, who that? And
Who's
my
that?
cousin hits the floor, like dying with laughter. Cause I would crack him up all the time. And Dave goes, I go, why are you laughing? What's wrong with her? He goes, that's dude's sister. So that's Rudy's sister.
Oh.
And we've been married for over 20 years now.
Wow, man. That's an amazing story,
Is
bro.
that serious?
That is crazy.
That's funny how the world turns. It just ended up. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't end up chopping her then. I met her like years later. But it's the funniest thing. I could tell the story at the wedding. And yeah, man, it's good. It's good.
Man, you said like all kinds of, you unpacked a whole bunch of things in there.
I'm sorry.
I love that.
I just had to let it go because the story just flowed.
No, it did flow. I mean, that's amazing that's how you met your wife. And you know, the other part too about your mom's hustle and her grind. Oof. It reminds me a lot of my mom and my grandma. You know, single moms, especially Black moms, they just figure things out. And I know I get a lot of my hustle from my mom as well. My mom wasn't, you know, she wasn't this great cook. I get all of that from my grandma, but both of them together just had this grind. And when you were saying that, I was just like, man, your mom just sounded like there was this amazing woman. So while you were like in the kitchen with her, were all your siblings in the kitchen too, or was it just you two?
No, because they're up and doing their things. A lot of course, they moved out. They didn't live there. They're older. And the one brother that's above me, which a lot of people know about, which we can transition to as to where this entertainment world comes from, is my brother Devin, which everyone might know him as Mr. Metro, profound rapper, Juno Award winner, a musical genius. Like my brother was all of that. Definitely. Can play all instruments. So when we're in the kitchen, he's got drums downstairs, keys downstairs, sax downstairs. Like he played everything. And I was just like, I hate you. You understand what I mean? Because you play everything. But like he was the man. And when he wasn't playing, he was outside skateboarding or BMXing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he's too old for her to go to church. So it was me and her making, but like so many things that come easy for me in the kitchen. I have one of my best friends, Carrie, goes, every time we go somewhere, they're like, Jay can cook? And he has to break them down and go, he's a better cook than he is a comedian. And we all know I'm a damn good comedian.
Oh, you're
So that's the level it gets to. So even within, I'll cheat and I'll say, even with some of the writing that we're doing in terms of the sitcom we're working on, some of those elements of what I want to bring into there come into this cooking world. And as a businessman grinding, I figure if we go to season 1 and episodes are good, season 2, hopefully it transitions into a restaurant. Right before she passed, she purchased a restaurant with her best friend and another cook. And it was in the mall, Malton Westwood Mall. So they went to buy a kiosk to work out, rent a kiosk. And she didn't make it to get there. So my next door neighbor, who was her other cook, they opened the restaurant. And you know what I mean? It was still a family orientated thing, but the grind just kept going until she couldn't go anymore. You know what I mean? Pancreatic cancer got her. So I love the fact that where you bring it from your grandmother and your mother, that's who teach us that hustle.
It's true. And you know, the thing too, Jay, is like, as you're talking, I'm already seeing how you became this Renaissance man. Like, dude, your brother's a musical genius. You got the music side, you got the comedy side, you get this from your mom. I'm sure you got things from your older siblings. Like, it's like you just take bits and pieces from all of these things.
It's dropping like tree branches, to be honest with you. And here's a pear, here's a plum, here's a peach. And that I'd like to say is where the stage element came. Yeah. So when my brother got signed to Capitol Records, he had the big song Mr. Metro, which, you know, 35 years ago talked about the police brutality that does upon our people in Canada. He put out this video. It went viral back then, before viral came viral. And that got him the deal. And he had the grace, and I always thank him for this, for putting me in the band. Wow. So I did background vocals in the band. That's where the singing comes from. I had, like, the band was crazy when it started. It had Deborah Cox, Glenn Lewis doing some bits. Then Deborah got signed, so we had Simone Denny, another profound house singer to the extreme. We had the best bass player in Orrin Isaacs. We had all of the top people in the band, we were the Black Eyed Peas before the Black Eyed Peas.
Wow,
you know what
that's
I mean?
amazing.
So when we put it out and the album came out, it was great singing backgrounds and going on tour and learning from them at an early age. Like I was the only kid in high school that would leave high school to go to Much Music and come back and play dominoes. So I had that joy of doing that with my brother, you know what I mean? And getting stage presence. So a lot of people don't even know when I started comedy finally, like, why does this guy have so much stage presence and moves through the ranks so quickly? But he would like, you, before I come on, you're on. So you're like, everybody, let's get him to sweat. Like I'm the guy who intros him.
So you're the hype man. You're the hype man bringing
up the bass runs, the ba-da-ba-ba. I know all these pauses, musical notes. Like I can play a piano, a little tune here and there, but I knew everything about breaks, starts, harmonies, stops. You know, when you go back out, encores. I knew all of that, how to build them up from going on tour with him for 2 years. So
wow.
It was a great experience to learn stage presence. So when comedy came, you're gonna ask me about my first time.
Well, I am. So you know, I mean that's where we're going. But that's you know, one of the biggest things that you see, or one of the biggest things that you hear about new comedians is their stage presence. It's like an artist. You know, when somebody first becomes a hip hop artist or an R&B or any genre, one of the biggest things they always have to work on is their stage presence. So you already came with that. So what was like, talk about your first experience on stage as a comedian. Like, what was that? When was it? Let us know a little bit about that.
I know the day, I know where, when, how, I know it all. It's at the York Event Theater at Yonge and Eglinton. And is it Yonge and Eglinton? What was that? York Event Theater. Yeah, it was really nice place. And it was huge. It was a dinner and dining. KLC had put it on. He got Russell Peters to host it. Wow. And he knew me growing up in Malton that I had chops. I was killing people at the basketball courts and basketball games and just making people die in the stands. I had jokes for days at basketball games. Right. So he was like, yo, you ready? We gonna put you on. And one of my boys had earlier given me 2 weeks. He's like, this is bullshit. You crack us up all the time. You got 2 weeks. We're inviting friends and family to watch you do jokes. So I did. So that wasn't really a show. To me, it was just your friends and family just going, yay, Jay. So coming this is my first public show. It's June, I think 2003. And I get on the stage. I'm backstage and I'm so nervous. It's got BET comedians. It's hosted by Russell. Wow. And I'm one of the opening acts. And I'm like, I want to vomit. Like people trust me, that stomach feeling. And they're like, just go get it out. Like, go get it out. But it wouldn't come out. Like I'm putting fingers down my throat. It's not coming out. And I'm just like, maybe I should just not do this. Like not do this. And Russell introduces me and I come out and it's nervous energy. Like I'm coming out to reggae and I'm dancing and it's nervous energy. And then I hear my brother yelling, tighten up the stage. And I command it. Like, so I'm like all over, I'm rah. And I dismount and to my surprise, it's standing ovation. Wow. It's like everyone is off their feet screaming because they're like, who the hell is this guy?
That's amazing.
And I'm planning it like I'm planning when my brother would do band rehearsals. Like we knew segues. Like when I watch bands play now, just to stick a pin and they're like, thank you, that was a great song. Our next song is, I'm like, who are you? Right. Because the only way I've been taught is to transition. Right. Like a DJ mixing. So my jokes would transition that way. I would make sure that if I'm going to talk about my dad beating us, then my mom started. She never really beat us because it had to flow into there. Right. She would just say things, have you messed up for weeks? And then it would like transfer into that. And then I would be like, I couldn't go out. And then I would talk about church. And then I would talk about my ending. Growing up in Malton, it was a big dismount. I did it for like 10 years. Wow. And every time I did it for 10 years, it got a standing ovation. So you're starting, and the joke is a killer because I would wear Indian clothes under my clothes. Right. So I'd have to wear them times. You can wear baggy clothes, all this tight stuff we be wearing now. Right. Kind of tight. It's kind of friendly now. But yeah, you have baggy clothes. So they would just see me performing for like 20 minutes. And then I would be like, yo, I have an Indian next door neighbor. And we'd watch cartoons at his house from my house. He'd give me samosas. I'd give him patties. And we'd watch TV. When we got to Asian Horizons, we would see the people Indian dancing behind the tree. And I'm like, can I get comfortable with you and show you how it went down? They're like, comfortable? Hell yeah. And I'm taking off my clothes, and they didn't know this whole time that you had magic. This is like my first set. Wow. And I take off my clothes, and there's an Indian outfit. The whole thing, I put on the Indian shoes.
Wow.
Like I committed. I had a Bhangra hat.
That is a commitment.
The beat comes in, and I'm throwing it down. I'm throwing it down. And the crowd is just like, you gotta be kidding me. Because if we're Black people and we see a white guy throwing it down, we like rating him just because he's a white guy throwing it down.
That's right.
We didn't think that Black to brown would convert that way.
That's right.
It hit.
Wow. And
Russell turned to me and he was like, yo, when'd you start? Because I ain't heard of you. And I'm like, today, like this. He's like, man, stop shitting me. I go, today. He goes, wow. You really got to be kidding me. And he goes, I said, I swear on the Bible, today. And the place was at least 800 people in there.
Wow. Your like, first show was 800 people?
Yeah, first show was 800.
That is crazy.
No ads, no buts. You know, some people like have 300, but they say 8. No, facts. It had Russell Peters and BET comedians on a Saturday night. It was June on a Saturday night. Like I was like, stop this. It was packed. That's why I was so nervous. And he goes, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna bring you to Montreal with me. And I was like, okay, bet. And he never called. I was like,
Russell, where you at, Russell?
Russell, I called him the number. He was like, here's my number. Take my number. I'm gonna call you. Never answered the phone. Never called. And he said the gig was October. And from June to October, I called this dude. He never answered once. And the day before, he's like, so you ready to roll tomorrow? I'm like, dude, wow. I didn't even think we're doing this. He's like, so I'm like, so I'll meet you at the airport. Because as you know, I was corporate. I was a big corporate head at that time. I was working at a telecommunication company. I'd worked my way all the way up to high valued manager, director. And I was working like with the president and all the rich people. Like I had a black card. I would go to concert shows, golf tournaments with all of the top shatas of the company.
So wait a second, you're working in the corporate world, the corporate world by day with this high level position in a telecommunications company, right? Yeah. And then by night you go put on the cape and become this like super comedian.
Bhangra dancer. The Renaissance man, don't ask me why they call me the Renaissance man. Ain't nobody else doing that.
Wow.
So I'm thinking we're flying to Montreal. You know what I mean? Like, what time do I meet you at the airport? Do you want me to get my flight? Like, and he's like, flight? We're driving. And I'm like, oh, I've not done that before. I had never driven to Montreal before, but it was the greatest drive ever.
It was a 5-hour drive or so, right?
Yeah. And it was me, him, and I met John Paul that day.
Okay.
In the car. So, man, the three of us politicked for 5 hours, cracked jokes, and that was it for me. That was when I was like, I want to do this. But I'm coming from that lifestyle where I'm getting paid very well. I have tickets to anything I want. Like, I'm phones, I'm doing whatever, I'm dealing with high level people. I did a piece with Pinball Clemens, you might have seen on my Instagram, but he was one of the people that I used to talk to at this high corporate level job. And I was like, man, how do I go from there to what these guys are doing? Like, I see Russell making money, but I don't know if John Paul's making that kind of money. And am I going to make that money? I just started this year.
Right.
And it was a great year. Like in terms of, I won Comedian of the Year, New Comedian of the Year, Fastest Rising. I got a lot of articles.
That's amazing.
And then I got into the Halifax Comedy Festival. Within the first 6 months, I headlined at Yuck Yucks by the December. So my first show was June, and I headlined by December. And that's like, who's
man? I got to give you a round of applause. Like that is crazy, man. That's crazy to like the acceleration, and you know, but then it becomes that you have a decision to make. And I know a lot of people listening are at this crossroads too. It's like they're thinking about this other thing, or maybe starting a side hustle, or they've had a little bit of success with something, but then they still got their full-time gig. And your full-time gig was like this really prominent position where you had access to all of these different perks of the job. And then you did this comedy thing. And you might have only known one person, Russell, who was making money. So like, what was the deciding factor to make you transition from the corporate world to comedy when you didn't even know too many people making money doing it?
This, if anybody listens to any part of this podcast, this is where you turn it up. This is where you like put the drink down and listen. It is going to be the hardest decision, and you and I both know this, that anyone else can make. It's like saying, hey, here's your king size bed with your duvet, and you're going to go live in the forest.
Yeah.
You might make it. You might live a wonderful life, because in the forest, there's this $1 million cottage that you might find.
Right.
You got to sleep out at the cottage for a while until you get to this cottage. I mean, sleep on the floor until you get this cottage. And that's the decision. So I fought with that decision, I'd say, for about 3 years.
Okay.
3 years. So from that time, for about 3 years, I was doing both. There were times where Russell would pick me up at lunchtime, and I would go to Seneca and do lunch shows with him and open for him, and come back to work and sign in and do whatever I want. You know what I mean? It was kind of like that. But I was like, man, I want this. And what really helped me make these decisions, there were pluses and negatives. The pluses were, on that same show, we're going to Seneca, they're calling him on the drive there. And he's saying, hey, they're like, Russell, we offer you $5,000 more if you do another show, because we're sold out. And he was like, no, you all got me out of my bed. I don't even get up this early. I'm not taking it. I'm doing this gig and I'm leaving. And I'm like, Russ, we can chill there. $5,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes, the phone is in the car and everyone's hearing it out the old phone. And he was like, you're going to do that too. You're gonna turn down money, because you're going to be like, nah, I'm not going to do it around your way. I'm going to do it my way. And that was one of the pluses that had the freedom that he started to develop early, before he was like Russell. And I was like, yeah, I want to be like that, because I'm like that in the corporate world, but I need to be like that in this world. Mm-hmm. But there were a lot of things, and I'm going to make sure people are listening right now. There's times when you guys, and I'll know this, we all got into a job where we knew we had to be there, let's say 9 o'clock. And we sitting in the parking lot at 8:50, and it takes you 7 minutes to get to your desk and log in. And now it's 3 minutes or 2 minutes that you're like, I got to walk. You're hating it. Yeah. You're sitting in the parking lot and going, I hate this.
Yeah.
There's a manager that's in there that gets on your nerves, that wants you to do action plans and make sure you make a certain amount of phone calls, or your login time has to come up, and you're just like, man, I hate this place. And don't get me wrong, I had a lot of hate this places, which drive me up the ladder quicker.
Right.
That's one of the first black guys to be working alongside the president and all of these people. And there were little points that divided my way, like the president himself, and this is more personal, but then I'll go holistically for everyone listening. Sure. The president moved on to do a Starcom satellite business. To be a president, you know how they be moving the presidents around.
Of course.
It was in Denver, and he turned to me and he was like, Jay, there's a junior VP position for you if you want to go to Denver. And I was like, I can't go to Denver.
Yeah.
But when he left, and I'm unapologetic with this, the company brought in a new president, and the president had a French background. I don't speak French, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm Black. And I honestly believe the corporation didn't like that a Black man had that kind of power. I was controlling the highest volume of people that purchased with Bell that weren't a company. You understand what I mean? So individuals that were balling, they were on my list. And he was like, what is... And I'm not saying that's what he said, but I'm saying that's how it felt. You know what I mean?
The energy that was around it was, why does this Black guy have these big corporate accounts?
Credit cards, like number of them. You know what I mean? Season tickets to Jays, Leafs. I mean, Raps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I can't stand this. So it was like they demoted me within the job. You understand what I mean? And I was like, I want to jump. I want to jump. And I saw them doing some layoffs. And I walked up to them and I was like, hey, man, I don't need someone to tap me on the shoulder and be like, you're out of here. My pride is too big. I work too hard. So the next round, holla at him. Holla at him.
Let me
know what I mean?
So you asked them to let you go. You asked them to let you out. I asked them
basically, like, the next time you're doing it, like, let me know the day. Don't be creeping up on me. Let me clear out my stuff. And I did. And I said to myself, I had enough people in that database that I took care of, that if 3 weeks ever passed that I didn't have a gig or a show, I would call one of those people to try to get a job.
Right.
So for everyone listening, like, you can jump, but have a safety net or a parachute.
3-6 months, save up 3 to 6 months.
Right. Have a parachute. Don't just jump. Like Steve Harvey says, that we need to jump in order to fly. But like be realistic. Have at least a parachute.
That's what I did. That's what I did.
You got to.
Well, Jay, you and I have a lot of similarities when it came to that, because I came from the corporate world. I used to manage training and do talent management, performance management. And what happened is I was good at what I did, but I was really well liked. And I used to work closely with the president, and I'd be in the middle of the organization. So I worked with everybody in the organization, and I helped, the executives translate like what the real strategy is down throughout the organization. And the same thing happened to me. I was working for this company. The VP, vice president of human resources, who was my boss's boss, just didn't like the fact that I was well liked. And people would always say the president would come down and like, Danny's presentation was great or this or that. And she didn't like it. And would always just say these little things that were really nothing. Right.
Right.
And so one day, my boss comes to me, who's her boss, and she says, yeah, this is going to sound really stupid, but my boss has a problem with you leaving your black suit jacket on the back of your chair. It came down to that. And, that's how petty it was. And in my first book, You Have the Keys Now Drive, I tell the story about the black jacket. And I say, we all have this black jacket. That moment right there was when I knew it was time for me to leave. Right. One, I faced a lot of, systemic racism. We couldn't move up. They're trying to handcuff you. And then my work was so good that that's the only thing that she could find, that Danny leaves his black jacket on the back of his chair, and I don't like that. So one, I said to my boss, why didn't she say that to me? Because I was always the person that had a side hustle and different things going on. So I didn't really care about a job. I didn't care about getting terminated. So from that moment on, I crafted my plan. I started my own training company. I had 5 people working for me. My name was nowhere on the company. I would go and secure the contracts, have people working, and nobody knew except for the 5 people working for me. Wow. And so exactly what you're talking about, I crafted a plan from that day on. I stacked up enough money for 8 or 9 months. And then I wrote my first book. It came out on Amazon. And then I went in and said, I'm out of here. I quit. And so I have a lot of similarities to your story.
No, because while we're telling each other those stories, the listeners are just going, oh, nice. But we're walking through knowing what that felt like that walk through whatever the call center is. Like, they're just walking the struts and you're hearing, that's the guy. Like, we're giving our people hope, but we're giving their people fear, because we walk with such a swag, such confidence. Like, everyone knew who I was there with such confidence, Steve. Right. Such confidence. Right. Confidence to the point is this. I'm going to tell you something's going to blow your mind. When I left, and this is going to be a movie I put out, this is going to be a podcast I put out. I've been holding this for a while because I want to get more known, because I know I'm blessed. I know I'm famous, but I want to be like famous, where they got to put a big cap on it. And they're going to have to write me a check, because what happened is I left and then I got a phone call. So now I'm doing the comedy. I got a phone call like 2-3 weeks later to perform at a function they were doing. It was from another Black manager. And he was like, I want you to perform at this function. And I'm like, man, $3,000. Everything to me was $3-5 grand. And he was like, cool. So I was like, $3,000. And he was like, all right, we got that. Okay. I'm like, good, we'll do it. And the guy ended up blocking all the entrances to the building with my picture on it to say, come watch me.
Wow.
Now he was forming something bigger than I even thought of or even heard about.
Wow.
So my boy, that was another manager, called me like, dude, you setting these guys up? And I'm like, setting them up for what? Like, nah, I'm just coming to tell some jokes. They're like, nah, they think you coming with a like hostile takeover. And I'm like, nah. So my phone rings, private caller, can we meet you somewhere? I'm like, sure. And they meet me at this hotel lobby. And they're like, how much to meet you there? And I'm like, how? So what do I give them? The same $3,000, $3,000.
Right.
And a dude shows up, hands me an envelope with $3,000.
You serious?
Says, I swear to you. And he says to me, so how much to not go to this show? And I was like, what? So I'm in my head, I'm like, these two ain't talking,
right?
But it's the same corporation. And Manny, I go nuts. I start writing off stuff. I'm like, first and foremost, I need 10 grand. And they're like, okay, cash. And I'm like,
10 grand to not perform.
It was like, no, 13. Remember, I just got 3.
Right. So you need another 10. Wow.
They were like, okay, anything else? I was like, yeah, my salary. I'm going to need that to run for about a year. Waiting to hear, dude, you lost your mind. And they're like, okay, anything else? I was like, what? My phone free for the rest of my life. And they're like, okay. Anything else?
You kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. When this comes out as a movie, just get ready to know who's going to cast it.
Oh my God, this is crazy.
And I was like, because remember, we're feeling what you and I were feeling.
Of course.
Black coat, black card.
Yeah.
And now I'm just throwing shit out. And I'm not even creative because I'm so ashamed of myself because I should have said 1 million. Because whatever it is they didn't want me at was worth that much, but I didn't know what was worth that much. Right. I had no clue what they were doing. My wife was working there. She was working a job. And I was like, hey, man, she's untouchable for the next 10 years. Like,
wow.
This is just because you know how we were.
We're just like, oh, you're just throwing things off the wall. You're like thinking on the fly, like, okay, this, and
don't touch her for 10 years. Don't like let me go. And then all of a sudden next week she got. And they were like, okay, cool. And dude, they were like, we're gonna give you 3 out of the 4 that you asked for. And the only thing they didn't give me was the cell phone free for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And it's funny because, dude, I gave people phones. So I opened up accounts. I could do what I want. So I was like, I'm just going to do that anyway. You'll never find me. So I'm good with that.
Man, you negotiated all of that on the fly. But it was
like this, though, D. Like on the fly. And they gave me everything else. So that 6 month that you had, I really had a year of my salary coming to me, bonuses, like all of that coming to me while I was edging in this stuff. And I was like, performing is not enough. I got to build an empire. I got to do my own shows. I got to produce my own shows because I know a lot of people. So people that are listening, when you want to jump, it's a drive that's in you that it meant for survival. You've got to treat this like the show Survivor. You've got to be like, if I lose everything. Not, I want to try to be a DJ.
Right.
There's 1,000, 1 million DJs. Why are you a good DJ? There's 1 million comedians. Why are you a good one? Because I'm one of the only comedians that's doing this since 2003 till now. It's at 17 years that has never been signed to Yuck Yucks. I've never been signed to Absolute. I've never been signed to a comedy club, ever. Wow. I've never even done one. I've never open, middle, all of these things I hear these guys had to go through. I've never done it in 17 years.
You've always done your own shows.
I've always done my own.
Man.
Because I bet on me. And I hear these guys say it because Fred Van Vliet does it. This is a different bet on me. This is I gotta survive. I did a lot of things I didn't want to do. I managed singing groups. I tried singing in a group. I tried all this stuff we tried and failed at. We tried. But now you've acquired skills to know music. Like, I walk into any music rehearsal with my band, no one will tell me nothing because the band's like, he knows his stuff. he might not play all these instruments, but he knows that was off. Like, because you've been in the experience. You
Jay, we got to pause. We got to pause because you said so much. Like I think people, if you're listening right now, you have to understand this. You can't be half in on something. Now you can explore different things until you find the thing that you think is your gift or your talent or you want to passionately pursue. But once you find that thing, there's no, I should do this or I'm kind of going to. You have to make that thing a must. I am going to pursue this with all of my effort. I'm going to go all in. Even if you're working a job, you go to work your 9 to 5, and then your 6 to 12 is you working on your craft. And I think that is the thing that we have to understand. You have to go all in. And so what that means is you have to be clear about what you want, why it's important, and then the how is going to come.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I hear you saying. You knew that comedy was your thing, but you did all these other things. You managed the band. You did all these odd jobs because why? You're focused on your what?
Trust me.
Right?
Trust me. It's exactly the same thing. So when we get to that level and you've gotten all of that training that you've been through, for everyone who does any craft or any career, they have to go through training. We put ourselves through that rigorous training. Do you understand what I mean? So when I walk in to an audition and I'm seeing people that are there, their story is like, and again, a lot of them got to go to Yuck Yucks and watch them work their way up or whatever they went to. They had to have been on a Jay Martin show or just wondered why this guy has stage presence. And that's what got me into the Just for Laughs. That's what got me into the thing. It wasn't some agent that told them, hey, he's good, or we've seen him through the ranks. And that's what they do. They pick their homegrowns, their favorites. That's right. And that's why a lot of times people come to me and go, Jay, why are you not in Just for Laughs? Right. How this dude getting Just for Laughs? There's a lot of unfunny people when you turn on that TV. Sure, trust me, you turn it on and you're like, how did this person get here?
Right.
And I'm like, I watch it all the time with my family, and it's not a hating game. It's like, I could eat them if they told me come now. Like, drive here now, I'll eat that guy.
Right.
And I'll riff and eat that guy, not write this thing out. And I'm sitting there going, how's this happening? But it's the structure. And you know what I'm going to say? They say the who you know. Well, why can't we be the who you know?
Right.
Why can't we be the who you know?
We can be.
Exactly.
Start your own. Like
exactly.
Tyler Perry did it. You know, people laugh. Tyler Perry is trying to get in. Oh, that nobody wants to see that guy. Okay, cool. I'll just quietly keep doing my plays. And next thing you know, he has the biggest, sound studio in America, right?
You know what's so funny?
That's what I'm hearing from you.
I'm glad you brought his name up, because the man, if you are me or you don't have a choice but to rate him, appreciate him, and kind of revere him, because he is the man. Mm-hmm. Whether you like or watch a Madea movie, whether you're not into men wearing dresses, whatever, don't touch his grind and hustle.
Yes.
It's one of the best in history.
Yes.
We'll see a Tyler Perry story movie. Oh, it's not sure. Maybe, it's a for sure.
Yeah.
If I'm watching Frankie live in live story, we're gonna hear about a Tyler Perry story, and that's the guy.
Yeah.
Like, those are why people do the J. Martin Steve Harvey thing, because I wanted to be that guy. You understand what I mean? I wanted to be that Canadian version of Steve Harvey that you didn't have a choice. Like, you have to pick me.
Right.
You have to. Like, you picking somebody else, you're making a wrong move. Like, that's the way I kept going on my career. And even when I met Steve Harvey, open for him, was supposed to open for him, that experience was surreal to me.
Right.
Because this is what we got to teach us, especially as Black people, that we're all kings. And the reason why I say this is because I made the mistake, and I'm going to say this. People, don't make this mistake. You might be watching Danny and you're watching Jay, and you want to be just like us. No, be the version of you that works as hard as us. Don't be the next Jay or Danny Stone. Don't be that. Be the next version of you that works as hard as us, like how we want to work as hard as Tyler Perry. So now I'm working on doing that, and I want to be Steve Harvey.
Right.
I'm dressing in suits. I'm wearing the hats. I'm talking the clothing lines. I'm reading his books. And then I meet him. Like, it's the day. It's the day where it's Jay Martin and Steve Harvey. We're down at the Sheraton Center, and they got 15 minutes for me, and I'm going to make it work. I'm signed to a corporate sponsor. I'm going to tell you the amount because I'm not ashamed. You're my boy. I hide nothing from you. Good, bad, or ugly. And I have a corporate deal for $75K for a year and a half from a corporation as a sponsor. Right. So here's a man roughing it up. I got a sponsor for $75K for a year and a half.
Nice.
And the sponsor is sitting front row. They bought like 15 to 20 tickets at like $800 a pop.
Wow.
And
what year was this? When was this?
I'd have to look it up.
That's okay. That's all right.
I'm thinking it might be, I know it wasn't, it might be, I know 2010 I did something with Cedric, and I want to say it's like 4 years after that, 2013.
Okay, so 2013, 2014. Okay.
And I'm like, yo, they buy the first thing. All I have to say when I come up to do my set is shout out to my sponsor. These guys, they're the greatest. Look out for them, and rip 10 minutes of jokes. And Steve Harvey sends a guy to me and goes, Steve Harvey wants to know how long you doing. I'm like, you guys said 15. He's like, nah, he don't want you to do 15, do 10. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I gotta chop away this. But all right. And he comes back in about 10 minutes and he's like, are you doing 10? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, Steve Harvey, why don't you do 5?
Wow.
5?
Wow.
What the hell am I gonna do for 5?
Jeez.
You understand what I mean? So now we're in dressing rooms behind stage together, and I can move the curtain and see him. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I can go through the curtain, or I can go around and open the door like a gentleman and go talk to him because we're comedians. Let's talk. Tell me what you want me to do. Like,
right.
Tell me if you want me to go light, want me to go heavy. Right. Tell me if you don't even want me to tell no jokes, just thank people. I'm a host. I'm you. Right. Like, I've emulated my life to be like you. You know what I mean? And I said, no, I'm not going to open the curtain because he's going to be like, who this dude? I'm going to go around, knock the door, go in, and I'm like, hello, Mr. Harvey. I'm going to be introducing you. And a guy as big as your house, literally, like I ain't never seen a dude this big, walks over, is like, what are you doing? And I'm like, sir. What he wants me to do, I'm opening it. And I don't want to step on no toes. We're comedians, we know. He's like, and you get back now, you can't talk. But through the whole time, he was pacing, like terrified pacing. Like it was just march. And I was so shocked because I'm like, dude, you've been on at least 5,000 stages. Like, how are you this nervous? We are all nervous, D. Don't let nobody fool you. You come check me before the show. I'm like, hey, what's up, dude? Yeah. But I'm really like, oh my God, I gotta know what I'm doing. We're all scared. We're all scared. If you're not scared anymore, you shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
And he was like, he just looked at me and just kept pacing. And I went back into my office. I'm like, okay, I don't even know what joke to kill him with because I don't even know if he wants me to kill.
Right.
The guy comes back and goes, hey man, you're not doing no time. You just gonna introduce him.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, now I'm done. No jokes. I'm just gonna thank my sponsor and introduce him. Would you believe the guy came back with a security guard, like looking like a cop, like security guard one more time, and was like, yeah, you're not introducing them. Is this a problem? And I was like, what? Yeah, so I'm backstage. That's all those pictures that you see me in. That's the suit. I lost so much weight. The suit is like penciled. It's to the dime.
Wow.
That's the day it was for. We took those shoots the day of the morning when I had those pictures done. So all those pictures that people see me in the hat was done for this show. And I didn't even get out stage.
Oh my God.
You could tell the guy was one of his friends that came out to introduce him. His voice was all quivering. He was all, okay, Steve. Like it was so horrible. And I remember punching the back door. Like my hand was all swollen. I was so, you ever like be so angry that you cry with anger?
Oh yeah.
Cry with, like you're just so angry.
Right.
And I think it was just the world crashing down. And I think, I'd be truthful, I think it was God saying, never put a man before me. never
So true.
worshiped a regular man before me.
So
Like
true.
it was the biggest life lesson. You asked me one of my big life lessons. Like this
Yeah.
is the biggest life lesson I ever learned in my life.
Wow.
That I put him in like
A
that status,
pedestal.
like
Yeah.
hero status. He is a man. He eats, drinks, sleeps, bleeds like all of us. He is no bigger, better than us. He's made some life decisions that have made him profitable,
Right.
but he's not a better man.
No.
So I was like, man, God, what are you teaching me today?
Right.
I ended up losing the deal.
Wow.
I think I only got a quarter of the deal. And
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
you can't do this. And they're like, take us to court. Because they
Wow.
needed that shine for
Right.
people to see. And I was hurt, man. I'm like, how is this a $50,000 no lesson? Trust me, depression,
Right.
before depression, D, you would have had to talk me off the couch, bro.
Really?
Because I was like, how am I going to get past this?
Right.
Like, how am I going to get past this? I Destination Wedding is because of Steve Harvey. I wrote the script for him to sit down after that show and go, here's a movie script. It could be Think Like a Man 3 or J Like a Man 1. It's up to you. I wrote it for Steve Harvey. You get what I'm saying here?
That's crazy.
It's so crazy, D.
So Jay, like, let me, like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
You know, you're getting the real.
No. So this guy is like somebody you emulate. He's like your hero. And, you know, people often say, I don't want to meet my hero or whatever because of things like this. So, like, once that happened, what did you think about all of that? Like, did you kind of just write him off? Like, I don't never want to be, were you angry with him, or was it a lesson? Like you said, it was a lesson for you, but how did you kind of reconcile with all of that, man?
Daddy, it gets worse. You thought it was worse? It gets worse.
Oh.
Not only did I write the script, not only I readied it, I went to Jamaica through a very prominent manager. This manager manages Shaggy, Beanie Man, Bounty Killer. She manages Tessan Chin. Look, she's the greatest Jamaican manager of all time. And her and I walk into the Jamaican consulate, and we have him, Mr. Harvey, hosting the 25th anniversary of Bob Marley. And the amount he's getting is 150 grand to do this. But he doesn't know that I'm the guy that cuts the deal.
Wow. So
this whole thing happens, and I want to shoot everybody. Like, I want to go, everybody down, and just like go nuts. I want to shoot everybody. But I need him to know I'm the guy.
Yeah.
And they finally, you know, twist around and tell him I'm the guy. And I wait for about an hour and a half, and we sit down eye to eye, man to man. And he sells me the shit story. Like, hey, I didn't know that was you.
Right.
You know, this thing we had planned in Jamaica was like, wow. So I was like, wow, yeah. He's like, you know, I'm not going to tell you to make the Jamaica deal happen, even though I'd like it to happen and like you to open for me. And then he went on to say that him and I were going to do a show with, oh God, you know this motivational speaker, Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins, yeah.
So me, him, Tony Robbins had 6 cities lined up for me to open for him, starting with Indiana, Dallas, Washington, Chicago, a bunch of cities. And if I did well on the first city, I would be the guy for the rest of them, just to make this whole situation a little better. And the show got canceled in Indiana. And I was just like, dude, you can't even hurt me anymore than you hurt me. You understand what I mean? So do I respect everything Steve Harvey has done with his life? 100%. Do I respect him as a man for what he did to my soul that day? 100%. You know why? Because it's changed me to believe that I can't believe in no man. Yeah. God will never allow me to put a man at that level. And I did. Yeah. I'm not even ashamed to say it, Danny. Yeah. I did. I worshiped Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. I did. I wanted to be him so bad that I forgot who I was. And that was the life lesson. So now you're sitting here going, I can't wait for Destination Wedding. You don't think I want that to pop?
Yeah.
For to hear about this dude?
Yeah.
That was your movie. Like, I was giving you that of me. Right. And that's why the hiatus happened before the hiatus happened of what's going on with Corona, because I needed to get this done. Like, I needed to get this movie done. And I've spoken to some real good people. It's still going to happen, even if it's my first soul plane movie.
Right.
It is what
it's
it is. You know what I mean? Our city will support it because there's a lot of grants and things that are going on right now, and they won't give it to you because you ain't experienced. How do you handle a $500,000 budget if you ain't done it before?
Right.
You understand? I mean, you got to surround yourself with those people to do it. I've got 5 movies that are make Destination Wedding look like a joke thing.
Right.
But no one's going to take it seriously until you pop out that first one.
No, you know, and I think this is really important because when I first kind of started doing the motivational speaking and writing books, I was like, yeah, man, I want to be Les Brown. I want to be, you know, Tony Robbins. And, you know, I used to go and listen to them speak, and amazing. Like, both of them are amazing at what they do.
Very.
And I realized I don't want to be like nobody else. And what made it for me was, like, I remember having these one-on-one conversations, whether it was with a young person or somebody at my old job I used to work at, and they would come back to me and they would say, Danny, man, that little 5 minutes you gave me, I just learned so much about myself. People would be crying at work. I would be late, going to meetings late, and it was a joke. Oh, let me guess, you talked to somebody in the hallway, and people would be crying on the job because I spent 5 minutes just listening. And I'm not saying that I was this all-knowing person, but showing that I cared or shared some things.
We've done that.
And that's when I realized I don't want to be like anybody else. Like, I want to be like me. I love the platforms these guys are on. I love the amazing things they're doing, but I don't want to be like anybody else. And I think this is a lesson for anybody listening. It's okay to admire people. It's okay to love what they do.
Right.
It's okay to learn from them, take all of their workshops, watch all their videos, you know, take their seminars, but you are somebody special. Look, every podcast, Jay, I end every podcast and I end a lot of my social media posts say, there's something special about you. Find out what it is and live it out loud. Or grind until you find it, be grateful when you get it.
Right.
And that's what it is. And as you're saying this, I mean, that was a hard lesson for you to learn, man. Like, you idolized this guy and just had all of this stuff happen, but it's the lesson that you got from that would, imagine if this was 10 years after when you got the first movie off, and now it was a different level that you were playing on, and you meet this guy or somebody else that you admire. Imagine how your life would have crumbled at that point. So yes, it was painful, but like you said, you took lessons from this.
Totally. So when people come in, you know, it's funny, I still have it in my bio, Canada Steve Harvey.
I saw that.
I know they love him. You understand what I'm saying? And I want them to love me.
Right.
I'm not the kind that's going to be like, take that out. Go ahead. You want to call me Canada Steve Harvey? Let's bring it.
Right.
Because that puts me on a level that I wanted to be at. I know people recognize. So let's go. I'm coming with that. So while I'm doing corporates this week, I got about 4 of them that I got to do comedy shows with. That's what they're reading, and that's what they're going to get. Wow. My swag turned up. Wow. Like, I'm not going to take him out ever until he called me and be like, can you take me out? Dude, you know we ain't really
That's right. That's right.
But until I hear that, I'm going to keep going. Keep going.
So Jay, when okay, you knew you were funny, you were getting these standing ovations, right? So when did you know that you were on a different level with comedy? Was it during that first ovation? Was it, you know, when you were traveling with Russell and the feedback? Like, at what point did you know, like, I'm just more than funny, this is a different level now? When did you realize that?
Wow. You want me to tell you when he brought me to Montreal, when I went to other cities, when I had no legwork, you know what I mean? I mean, I've not going to say I killed, but I did well in every city I've ever went to. Right. The only city I have not went to begin with and murder was Jamaica, because I'm Jamaican, and you can't out Jamaican a Jamaican.
That's right.
And it was really tough the first show I had down there till I don't even think the same guy hasn't booked me back until this year, because it didn't go as well as I thought. And it's the same merit that I told you, you know what I mean? Tricks will come down there and say something and get a standing ovation because they know he's African. You understand what I mean? Or John Paul's Trinidadian. Right. I'm Canadian, Jamaican. You know what I mean? So all my jokes got to be Canadian only. Right. But everywhere I went, everyone was like, I like this guy. St. Martin was like, I like this guy. Right. And that's when that reality kind of clicked in. we know our friends are going to laugh at us. But when you walk into a room with strangers where absolutely no one has a clue of who you are, what you're doing, where you came from, and you have them in stitches, you sign in your first autograph, you're like,
wow,
dude, can you sign this? That means they see stuff in you you haven't even seen
that's
yet.
right.
You know how much pride it takes to sign the autograph when you know you ain't made it yet?
Yeah.
That is some, nah, man, don't do that. Like, because that's the whole paganism thing, and I'm not that guy. But to know that I'm not gonna crush somebody's dream, I'm gonna sign an autograph. Who is this to? Like, I've done it before, but they see potential in you. You know what I mean? Those are driving factors. As individuals that are out there, we need to do to ourselves to make it to the next level.
No, you're right. And so, like, how do you, you know, it doesn't seem like you've had much of this, but like, if you didn't do well or things didn't land, or you might have did a show and you just never felt good about, how do you bounce back from that? Listen,
man, I'm gonna keep this live because I don't know what about you has the truth serum, but you're about to get it. It's that same year. It was that same fast rising year. Halifax Comedy Festival came and called, and it was like, great. They want him to go, and they have this thing called New Faces for rookies. You know what I mean? And they're in less rooms. And the lady who picked me was like, "This ain't no rookie. Like, he's getting a gala with the camera." And I was like, okay. And we were in the room, and I remember the guys in the room, and everybody's like, we're on the gala. And I knew this was heavy hitters. You know what I mean? And I went out there, and it didn't go well, boy. Like, I never heard one laugh. I heard one lady laughing, and it was like piercing because she was just like, ha, ha, ha. And I was like, wow. I couldn't go back to the dressing room. I'm going to be honest with you, Danny. I sat in the corridor between the dressing room where all those guys were, because there was a TV in the dressing room watching. So, you know, all them guys watched you die. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And I died a painful death. Like, I was like a mess. And this is why everyone's like, yo, every time you go around, you and John Paul are like brothers. That dude picked me up off the floor in there. Like, I was quitting right there.
You were done.
Like, I quit. It was 2004. I'd won Comedian of the Year, and this just came and punched me in the face. And my lessons have to be on national television for some particular reason. Wow. I don't get it, but it was so hard. And it took me so many years after that to get to Just for Laughs, because all these festivals talk. Now, I bounced back up. He said, get in your room, write some new stuff. You know, that stuff ain't gonna fly. I know you're funnier than that. You know what I mean? Bring it. But I wanted to quit. So there are those moments that you gotta fall. And I believe, you know, why some people get the gigs they get is because they know people. Some people might judge me off of that show. And that show wasn't my greatest moment. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't. I don't know what I said. I remember it not being good. I remember saying, and I remember going, there are no Black people here. And I got fish and chips. I couldn't even get no vinegar.
Oh no!
And they were not feeling.
Oh well, first of all, I'm from Halifax, and there's a lot of Black people there.
But where I went, I didn't see that, but they were not happy with that joke. I remember scratching it so hard out of the book. So I was like, man, I suck. But it's moments. These are life lessons. You know what I mean? I wouldn't change it for a thing, only in the fact that I just hope that other places that do festivals don't watch that tape to be able to judge my character. You know, people go on YouTube and be like, oh, who's this Jay Martin guy? Yeah. You're going to find older material. It's still funny, but you're going to find older material. Your best is to watch what we do right now while we're at the top of our game to do the best we can be.
No, and that's a great lesson. I mean, I think sometimes we look at success as being very linear. Like, okay, I jump from here to here to here. Everything just lines up because, and in a way I kind of understand, because think about this. How many people really truly find their real true calling? It's very few, right? And so if you're one of the people who actually is like, okay, I know what I want to do, I got to figure it out. So you're light years ahead of 95% of other people. Now you know. And so now that you found it and you're brave enough to pursue it, in your mind, you're like, okay, that was the hardest part. The hardest part is actually finding the thing. I found the thing that I need to do. Now I just need to move up the ladder. But life isn't like that. right? If you look at any successful person, they were sleeping in their car. They've been bankrupts 10 times. They've been laughed at on, booed off the stage. They've, I've bombed in some of the speeches I've given. It was crickets. I'm like, oh man, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And
when do I get out?
I was like, man, that was so bad. But there's something in you. And this is why I say you got to be so clear about your what, because once you know what you have to dust yourself off. But you also said something, and this is what other people have to realize: the people that you surround yourself with. If you're around a bunch of negative, like one of your boys, if John Paul was negative, he would have been like, yeah, Jay, this ain't your thing, man. You're right. He picked you up. And a lot of us are around a lot of negative people who talk us out of our goals and dreams, when you know that they're over there messing up and there's areas of their life that they need to take care of. So talk a little bit about surrounding yourself with powerful, positive people.
Listen, we have a team of guys that I surround myself with that call themselves "There's No One Like Us," and that's the crew I have. And trust me, we're so competitive. And you're absolutely right. I'm gonna go just industry, because we meet people we don't. And if I'm gonna count them, I'm gonna count Dwayne Morgan, Ian Espinay, yourself, John Paul, Bandit. This circle here of guys that I just mentioned, and I'm sure some other guys going, what about me, Jay? We have Kid Cut. We are guys that drive each other for perfection in all the stuff we do. We bounce off of each other. We have that moment where we can call one another and feel weak. Yeah. You understand what I mean? And know that it's not going to hit road, and everyone's going to be like, yo, Jay Martin feels like he's losing it. Like, you guys are going to be the ones I call to help bring it back up. And what you think about that? And I think your circle is so important. Like, if you're listening, please make all of us that are in this entertainment writers world, like performers world, not all of us are shady. A lot of us are like us, D. That's why we gravitate to each other all the time so easily. You got to reach out with us and let us in your circle. Because while we're there being your peer, not your idols, will help you get to where you need to get to. A lot of my people, oh my gosh. And I got in trouble before by just lacing up the man then, but there's a lot of women. Dude, women that just are Jay Martin fans. Like,
okay, we gotta talk, man. Your fans are, I've never seen people who are so loyal to a person. I mean, Jay, I've gone to your events. I remember going, there was years ago, there was 300 people show up. Every time I would go, it'd be like another 100 more. The last one I went to was 1,500 people.
Exactly.
And they are loyal Jay Martin fans.
Listen, I got to touch it real quick. Me and Trix were talking, and Trix is a phenomenal comedian. I think one of the best in the country. Pound for pound, one of the greatest. And he has like followers. And I'm here to tell y'all, there's a difference between fans and followers. Of course he has fans. I have fans. You understand what I mean? And you said it. Fans are people that want to know where your next meal is coming from. Their fans are people that want to buy whatever you have because they believe in you. Fans are people that if they had $1 million, you have $1 million to work on your project. And that's the important part. So that's what drives me to consistently bring my game up, my fans. And you say it, I'm so grateful. Like, if anyone asks me, what are you grateful for? Of course, life, breath, health, family. Those are things we all say. But you see my fans and loyalty? Dude, I don't even ask for things because I know I'm going to get it. So you'll see me go, Jay, I heard you in a while. You ain't saying nothing. Because if I say it, D, they're going to do whatever I want them to do to get it. And I'm not going to abuse that relationship.
And I love that. And I think that's why, you and I connect so much, is because I know lots of people who do lots of things who are at various levels in their career field. And one of the things I knew about you right away is that you care about people.
I do.
And I can tell because of the comedy experience. And I remember, I think one of the ones that you did down in the C&E grounds there.
Yeah.
I brought like 10 people. I brought my mom, my sister, my wife. I told my wife and my wife's girlfriends, yo, we're all going. Like 10 of us came. And they were like, oh yeah, Jay's doing a comedy show. I said, no, Jay's doing a comedy experience.
Yeah, man.
And they said, well, what is that? I said, Jay got his food, he got a band, he got a DJ, and talk about the comedy experience. Because one thing that I realized as a coach, words have meaning and power, and a lot of people don't get that.
Right.
Hey, you could have said a comedy show, but you said a comedy experience. Talk to me about that.
Quickly with that is the fact that it all draws from all the things we talked about today. I'm in a band for most of my life that made me here, so I have to have one. I love music so much, so it's a DJ. My mom taught me to cook a lot of food, so people come and they get hungry because I'm gonna have your attention for 2.5 hours, and there's nothing in the world that you do for 2.5 hours that doesn't make you hungry. You know what I mean? And when you're downtown, you got to go either deeper downtown or way back home. So while you're as happy as you are, you're hungry, and no one is happy and hungry at the same time. So this experience I'm bringing you is the whole gamut. We got a game show in that aspect, what we do between intermission. People are like, I got to go to the bathroom, but I don't want to leave because it's so entertaining. Yeah. These guys are playing Name That Tune during intermission. I feel that you need to be entertained. And I must say that it hurt me towards the part where I hit the hiatus, where people were just wanting to just go watch people make them laugh. And I'm not dissing other promoters out there, but I was getting like, they were turning it into, I can see Jay anytime, as opposed to, I'm gonna go to see this guy or Jay. And I was like, I'm losing because you think you can see me anytime. Right. So now I gotta spread this out so that you miss me. Yeah. But when I'm giving 110%. Yeah. Whether it was 300, 500 to 1,000, it's because everyone was going in there. I know actors that have come to the show and going, dude, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, we thought you was just gonna come out and tell jokes, which you're capable of. And secondly, I'm putting tons of comedians on. Oh yeah. Comedians on that no one ever heard of. Definitely. I heard you in Atlanta. You're great. You're coming. You know what? I need this money. No one's going to know you and no one wants to see you. Let's get that straight. Right. They come in to see Jay Martin. But while seeing Jay Martin, I'm letting you see tons. Like, I got comedians, I can't even count them, the amount that I've put on a Jay Martin show, because I want them to see your flavor. Not because I can't go up for an hour and a half. Right. Right. You understand? I care. Like you said, I care. No. I care that my woman audience wants to hear a woman and she's funny. So I'm going to bring my girl, Melanie Camacho, all the way from Los Angeles. She didn't even believe me. She was like, what are you talking about? Who are you? Why is your check not clear? And I'm like, ask money transfer. I said to him, like, she goes, you better be a straight shooter. I'm like, trust me. Then she gets here and I'm like, wake up. We're having breakfast together. She's like, what? Yeah, we're going to breakfast together, all the comedians before the show, and they're going to have a driver pick you up. I treat people like how I would want to be treated. Now, does anybody know who they are here? No. Did anybody buy that $30 ticket, which I kept affordable, so you all can try to listen to me and believe in me? They're like, dude, no one knows them. Yeah. But that feeling, that experience, that's what I do. The experience was always it. So when I'm out there and I'm breaking even on a show with 500-600 people, and I've put out 15 to 20K to make it happen, and it's just like equal, and I gotta live next month, I was like, nah, I gotta go do this movie, because respect due, but the major hypes are coming, the white yardies are coming, whoever's coming, it's just gonna turn on the light and talk to you and make you laugh. They're coming and you're paying $80 and $100 for that guy because he's American, or he's from England, or he's from anywhere but Toronto. And my own people, that though they're loyal, they weren't. They were running to see all these other people. And I don't wrong them. I want to see those guys. Right. I do. But like, I'm here. I've never charged $50 for a show. Yeah. Never.
No, your shows have always been affordable. I mean, you should be charging $150.
Exactly.
I mean, everything that you do. And the other thing is, you know, there's inspiration, there's storytelling. Like when you go to your show, you're talking about real things that people can relate to. Right now, you might be going through a tough time or in your relationship, but keep going. Like, you inspiring and motivating. Like, it's a whole experience, and you could easily like $150, $200. You could
that's
charge
what it's worth.
shows.
But I had to make them miss it a little bit, and of course the pandemic came, and shout outs to the media people, the news people, my management, and my publicist that made sure that, hey, when they see you next time, it's a movie. And I figured, if I make a movie or a sitcom and then I do a show, we'll be back to doing what you just said. You're still going to get the proper show and entertainment, but now people will pay for it. And I don't have to beg you to come to that experience.
I love that. So talk a little bit about like what has been happening over this last COVID, because you've been popping up in different places. And, you know, one of the things that you like, you're a promoter, like, you know how to promote stuff. And I know some of these promoters out here may be jealous because you get, you know, as a comedian, you bring out more people than a lot of these promoters. So
at their parties,
it's crazy. So what have you been doing like over the last, you know, since COVID, over the last 6-7 months? Because I see you popping up here and there. Talk about your mindset with that.
The campaigns, there are three things that have come that we're doing. Number one is the sitcom I created with Oliver Samuels, which is the king of Caribbean comedy, hands down. We have a show called Oliver in Charge. We've written 10 episodes.
Wow.
We are going to shoot the pilot. And once we shoot the pilot, we're going to shop it to all the networks. We feel that the diaspora of Africa, Caribbean has not been reflected in the comedy world in terms of sitcoms ever. No. Everybody I tell it to is just loving it. The concept is amazing. It's just straight funny. I'm married to an African wife who's a lawyer, based off of course, you know, some influential women. I want a woman of power with me and show women that they have that right to be that in a sitcom. I'm the one with no job because I left my job, like the story of my real life, to just do whatever it is I want to do. I got a father that's coming in, a half brother that's in Jamaica that I never grew up with. So it goes through all of those parallels. And I got a brother-in-law and a comedian like Tricks, where our chemistry is, that get into all sorts of shenanigans with my dad. So it brings all of those concepts of what we watch through the Cosby Show, through Blackish, through Bernie Mac Show, through some of the greatest shows, but they've never, all the shows I mentioned, none of them have ever touched the Caribbean or even Black culture as it is in a country like Canada, where you can be Scotian, Caribbean, American, and African, and we all get along and know each other. We all know what it is. You know what I mean? I know what it is. I know what it is to spend a weekend in Scotia. I know what it is to hear Afro beats. Like, this is not new to anybody of Black culture here. And that's not what happens in our counterparts in the South. Right. So what ends up happening is we've created a show which is much like how England is, which I think this show would do very well. I'm not going to name any networks, but there are 2 networks that are interested in the idea of the show. So awesome. The concept of the pilot has got to be made. We were going to shoot it in October, but you know, the travel things with my actors have to come up here for 14 days. They got to stay somewhere. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And isolate themselves. So that's number one. Number 2 is, as I said to you, Destination Wedding has to happen. I've ignited my company with another film company that's very good. I'm not going to say their names yet, but their resume is, no one's going to knock on my door anymore and go, you don't have any experience, because these guys have got experience. They're a phenomenal team of writer, producer, and director. And I'm so happy to be working with them. And together we are going to shoot and do Destination Wedding, hopefully get one of the people in the big corporate worlds that are donating these monies to Black businesses come up and step up and do it and get it done. So that's happening. I'm also looking forward to doing what my mom did in the new year. I'm looking at some spots. I want to create that dynamic food experience like I've given you before.
Yes.
And I want it to be limited to a time period. So what's respect due to the real jerks and all the restaurants out there, what would be different to mine is there's a time period for you to get this food. It might be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It might be Saturday, Sunday.
That's
but
cool.
It's going to be at a level that people are going to go, are you kidding me? So it's going to be proper with the business model that I use. And that's the kicker to West Indian food, is it's never business. It's never matching their food. So the experience of the individual getting the food is never a nice experience. No. Or it's an easy experience to get the food and the food tastes trash.
That's right.
Like, it's rare to get both
of them together. I agree.
And the problem is because they got to live up to that expectation of customer service for 7 days a week, which is a hard thing to do, D. It's a hard thing to do. So I'm going to make it shorter and bang it out and hopefully blow everybody's mind.
Bro, I love this.
That's the concept of it.
I love it, man. Man, you got a lot going on.
Yeah, that's what I got going on. And I'm trying to keep healthy and get acting classes, just be better. I'm always going.
Man, look, we're at about an hour and a half, but I got like a couple more questions. Is it okay if I ask you a couple more?
Good. Go ahead.
Cool. I want to know, man, you're doing so many things. You've had so many experiences traveling and being on stage with lots of really well-known people.
Yeah.
What is the best advice that you've ever received? What's the best advice in life,
Yeah.
business, life?
Yeah. The best advice, I've received a lot of good advice, but I'm gonna make this one real simple. And you can follow it as good as you are. Everyone we know can follow it. When you are an entrepreneur and you are following your dream, the best advice I ever got was it's not a team sport. Mm. And the reason why I say that is because it's not a team sport. We're here talking about who's loyal or what have you, but you can't come into this game with the expectation, like basketball, that there are 4 other players, like football, that there are blockers, like any sport that has another person. We're like that individual that's a swimmer. Right. If he sucks, they lose. Right. A tennis player, single tennis player. If you suck, you lose. This is not a team sport. And I kept going, why wouldn't he want to work with me? Why don't I want to work together? And then I realized when my boy, John Paul, he was the one who said, it's not a team sport. Comedy's not a team sport. Like, this is not, hey, do you want to go out and tell jokes together? Nobody owes you anything. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that was a hard realization. I had to learn way more in the game further to understand why people aren't like you and me, Danny, who are willing to help people get successful. Right. Some people aren't built that way. They're just built on their own success. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. I can't be mad at you because you only care about you. Right, right. It might be selfish, but I can't be mad at that. Right. You understand what I mean? So that was the best advice I ever got, and I give it to people all the time. It's not a team sport.
And I think, Jay, too, one thing that what I think we should let people know is that doesn't mean that you don't have a team, that you don't work with people, right? Because you know what I mean? It means that you're the one that's in control. When you have a team, they're looking to you. You are the driver of everything, right? If you're up, you're up. If you fail, then everybody fails, right? So I think that's one thing that we want to let people know. You're not saying you don't have a team.
By the parallels. Yeah, no. I'm nothing without my team. Right. My team is tremendous. And now my team is super tremendous. When you merge them all together, they're super tremendous. So, and to me, I'm the leader of my team. I got writers, producers, I got management. I got a lot of good people on my team, but I'm the guy that kind of makes it run. And the only guy on my team that I answer to is God. You know what I mean? I'm constantly spiritually thanking him and asking him for guidance. And then I ask the team, what do you think? And I listen to my team. Like, there's a lot of people, I'm not saying no names, but there's some people that get murdered in social media because they didn't listen to their team.
That's true.
Let's be facts. If you see
that's 100% facts.
Who has failed recently that you know of or is going through something, I guarantee that you look around them, and if we could get a mirror or a little camera around them, it would show that they did not listen to their team or not trust their team.
That's right.
So in one breath, I'm telling you it's not a team sport for you, but you still need your team. Right. And you need to listen to your team, and you need to trust your team, because it's your team that helps you get there. And if your team feels a part of that trust, they're not going to hurt you. They're going to look out for you.
Of course.
They're going to help you make things that you can't see, because we can't be everywhere.
No.
I can't be in the restaurant, shoot a movie and a sitcom.
No. Clear here. You're great. You're great, but no.
You know what I mean? I got to trust my restaurant team that's going to do this for this period of time at this level. I'm going to have to trust the guy that I put on the computer that makes sure that the order goes through and everything comes off nicely. I got to trust that my directors are knowing the days that we block off to shoot this are those days. And I got to be on tip-top shape, well sleeping, get the bags out of your eyes, make sure you're ready to get that acting thing going. And you got to trust your team. You got to have a good team. So it all wraps around what you said. Surround yourself with a good team and trust that team.
Yeah. No, that's great. And since we're talking about all of that, like, how do you balance being a comedian, being on the road, and your family? Like, how does that work? Like, how do you balance that?
In the beginning, my family took a beating. They did. They really did. And I'm hearing it now. They took a beating because they were like, where is he gone? What does he do? You know what I mean? I have an older daughter that doesn't live with me. So she's like, I hear about when my dad's keeping a show. And that hurts. You know what I mean? Because you want to be a little bit more closer to them than that. But now, because I'm a little older, a little wiser, and I'm able to not, before the pandemic, I was turning down gigs unless they were like a yearly festival. I wouldn't just run to Atlanta because I'm in Atlanta to do a show anymore. Like before, it was like, sorry, next week I'm in Atlanta, next weekend I'm in England, next weekend and like I'm here, and then your whole family just like, so when are you back? Like, I never asked anybody, I just left. You know what I mean? So now it's changed, and I realize, you know, I'm home a lot more. For obvious reasons as well. So the pandemic is also for everyone to get a reset. You know what I mean? It's something where we know that it's a very serious thing, as even though there's, you know, they're tearing the walls open, whether the closed or shut, vaccination, no vaccination, regardless of what they do and say, we are getting an opportunity to reset ourselves. You know what I mean? A well-needed break, allow us to physically get ourselves better, spiritually, mentally get ourselves better. And I think I'm right now, you can hear it in my voice and in my action, I'm at my best me right now. Like, bring it. Like I want it all, where I wasn't at my best me before because I was chasing different little dreams. You know what I mean? We can be you ever heard the word over ambitious?
Oh yeah, for sure.
There you go. And you're like, how can you be over ambitious? Like, that's what I was then. And it becomes over ambitious when you're chasing it and you're losing in other areas. Ambition is when you're going that way, you're chasing it and you're achieving it, but you're still manifesting everything that you want to do.
Oh, I love that you said that. No, I love that you said that. You know, I think that the other thing too is we have to learn to define what success is. Like, I've had coaching clients who were very successful financially. Their families are falling apart, going through divorce. Their kids don't know who they are. Their health is suffering. And some of them will tell you, no, I'm not I'm not successful. How can I be successful when my 25 and 30-year-old kid doesn't know me? I'm going through a divorce. I'm 50 pounds overweight, but I got this money in my bank account. And so I think what I was hearing you say is you really had to learn, I call it your wins. What's important nows? What are your wins? What's important now? Right? Because we can trick ourselves into bed. Oh, I'm running around and I'm doing all these things and I'm keeping busy and making this money for my family. Yeah, but your family just wants you home. You know? So I think that what you were saying, that just popped up for me, because I think that's a great lesson for so many of us. We have to get back to reevaluate, what are my wins? What is important now? Right?
I love that. I love the paraphrase, the acronym. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I might borrow that, my friend.
No, keep it, man. You can keep that.
I might borrow that, my friend.
What have you learned about yourself, you know, being a comedian for so long? What's one or two things that you really learned about yourself, being on or off stage, writing, being alone, being on the road? What's something that you really learned about yourself that you didn't know?
Something about myself that I didn't know very recently. You know, because I confide in you. I recently just had an operation to replace my hip. And it was funny because when I got the call from my doctor, it was a cancellation. So it happened so quick, I couldn't even prep everybody at family and friends. They were like brethren that are like, what? You did what today? They knew I was suffering from the pain, which was affecting me on stage. I wasn't moving, like I was standing still or I was sitting on a chair. And the J. Martin, you know, is like all over the place. You know what I mean? I couldn't do all of those things, but had the operation successful. And, you know, in order to get out of the hospital with my doctor, she was like, you're going to have to hit up the staircase. And I couldn't get up a staircase with 5 steps. Like it was just too much pain. And they were like, okay, we're going to take you to a recovery hospital. Now I get to the recovery hospital and, you know, they do all these checks on me and I'm ready to get better. And I'm in the recovery hospital. What I don't know is that they're like, hey, while you're getting better, you can't leave your room for 7 days. And I was like, what? Wow. Like, you can't go out the door. So you can go to the bathroom or the bed for 7 days. Now, you just said, what do you learn about yourself? What happens in day 3? You're like, I wasn't going outside anyway. Right. Day 4, you're like, what's out there? And day 5, you're like, I can't stay in here no more. Like, I've covered every inch of this room that I can. And I realized about myself that I didn't know how mentally strong I was. I understand depression, insanity so much better now, because before I was like, why are you depressed? Or why are you insane? Like,
right.
just do this.
Right.
Until you know that you can't do something, and you and I aren't can't do type of people.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
So while being not a can't do kind of person that is stuck in the frame of can't leave, that was crazy. Wow. And like no visitors, you can't leave. It felt like the closest thing to jail. And ironically enough, I was at Bridgepoint, I'll say it, which is connected to Don Jail. And when I did finally leave the room, the one walk they took me around the room was I could see the jail, and I was like, I was just in one. You know what I mean? So to be incarcerated, and it's a mental incarceration, is the same thing as a physical one. Right. Since you're in there, you're like, brethren, like, this is crazy. So what I learned about myself is I'm a lot stronger than I expected. Wow. I came out better. I wrote material. I kept calling people. I kept in touch. I made it fun. So that's something I learned that I'm proud of.
And so how did you make it through that? Was it faith? Was it, how did you like if someone right now is going through something, like what would you say to someone right now who's at that place? They're depressed, they're struggling. Like, give them some words in terms of how you made it through that might help them.
I called people. I kept talking. And when I called them, you know what I did? I acknowledged the time I leave. So I would be like, yo, it's 73 hours and 23 minutes till I get out of here. Right. And they're like, what? Who counts that? I'm just like, I was writing rap songs. I'm leaving rap voice notes on my friends' WhatsApps. Just be like, just to be stupid. And can I spit still? Like, let me throw this rap out. And practicing in the bed because you had nothing to do. I didn't have a TV. Right. They blocked Netflix in the building. So I couldn't watch Netflix. It was just like, dude, write some jokes, be funny. And I would just call people and make them laugh, because laughing for comedians is our antidote. Right. You guys think we're making you feel better, but don't know that making you feel better makes us feel better. You know them guys that are lovers that are like, yo, baby, making you feel good makes me feel good. Right. You know them dudes, that girl be like, really? Okay, then. Every man's used that line. Well, no, baby, it's all about you today. Hey, man, I'm good. I can get my off. That's what I was doing. I was making people laugh, and by making them laugh, it was like, you still got it, bro. You still got it. So
but you know, I think you raise a great point there, because a lot of comedians say that their comedy comes from pain, right? And so was that the case for you, or is this your storytelling? Like, because you hear it all the time. The biggest comedians in the game, they say a lot of their comedy comes from places of pain.
It does. You can hear it in the conversation today. You know what I mean? I watched my brother died when I was 12, my oldest brother. My mother, who was a single mother, dies and gets buried on my 16th birthday. Wow. That's pain. You understand what I mean? You walk into school and nobody's talking to you because they don't know what to say to you. So that's where it starts. And I get in the stands and I make jokes. Right. And I crack jokes in the stands. And it's weird because I went to school with one of the city's greatest basketball players in Bobby Allen. I went to high school with him, and he called me before the operation because he heard I was getting it. And he was giving me advice. And we've talked over the years, but we've never talked like how me and you would talk, Dean. Right. And he confessed something to me, and I was so shocked. He's like, first of all, I waited like 10 years to watch you, and I couldn't believe it. You were at a Kirk Franklin concert. And I was like, this kid went to school with me. And I'm like, all our lives were like, we went to school with the ball man. Right. And he goes, I'm going to confess something to you. There'd be days I'm like ripping the rim off and everyone's going nuts. But I'm like, sitting on the bench warming up or relaxing or taking a foul shot, and I hear rah, and that's you tearing up the audience in the stands. Like, no, like D, if we went to high school together, you would know. Like, I was that cruel comic. Like, I was the cruel comic. Like, there was a kid, I'm gonna tell you a joke. There was this kid that was from where was it? Niagara Falls, or one of those out schools for a tournament at our school, and they were doing a layup drill, and it's quiet in the gym. They're doing layups. They ain't got no music. It's two teams that don't go to our school, so they don't got no tracks, and we're bored. And I'm like, yo, I get up and I start dancing, and they're like, what is this guy doing? And I'm like, what? And they're like, what are you dancing to? And the dude had a groove in his head. And I'm like, I'm dancing to the groove in number 12's head. And
Oh,
they were like, no!
oh man.
And he
That's
had a groove in his head and he's doing the layup and his team is cracking on him. I cracking on, like I was one of those, hit you in the head. They're like, this guy, all game, they're laughing at this kid. And don't get me wrong, it's cruel now, but in high school, I was that guy.
It was high school. It was high school.
High school? Oh, I tore people up in high school. There was this one girl that I used to ask what was for lunch next week because she had a nose so big, I call her Toucan. And she got a nose job. And I saw her at a reunion and she's like, you notice me? I got a new nose because of you. Like,
oh my gosh.
I was that guy. So don't get me wrong, I wasn't paid, but I put some pain on some people. So trust me. Bad nickname. So that's where it started. Like it does come from pain. I agree. I can't be like, oh, my life was great. Nah, it was great when I finally came out and be a comedian, but it wasn't great coming up through the ranks being.
And people have to, like I said, people have to understand it's when you have to commit and you have to take the good with the bad and find your way through it. And, you know, one of the things that I wanted to ask you is like what stands out to you other than, you know, that first standing ovation and going on tour? Like what is like one of your biggest memories as a comedian? What's like something that just stands out like unbelievable that you couldn't even believe it happened?
I'm gonna tell you, the biggest memory as a comedian for me is not what everyone's gonna think. It's not opening for the biggest comedian ever, because it's a moment that you step out there and it's quickly done. The best comedy memory I have, and I know the other two people have it too, is Trix, myself, and John Paul did a 3 the Hard Way show in Ottawa. And no one remembers the show. But we went to a restaurant after, the three of us, and it was joke for joke. It was like a joke battle. And I think 5 people that got to be with us during that time will tell you, bar none, the funniest day of their life. And between the 3 of us, we know it was the funniest day of our life because we were all shooting on 10. Like it's not often that all guys are on 10. And the people that were here, the 5, were like, no, this was like it was like boom, boom, and I'm winning and I'm losing. I win. It was like a 3-man tennis match of jokes, and everyone was a Williams sister. It was just it was like a 3-way tennis match, and we shot for about an hour, and we were like, no one's the winner, but the 5 people that were there will tell you, bar none, the funniest night of their life. Wow. That's my biggest comedy memory.
But Jay, you know what? That in itself is actually poetic, because think about it. All of the experiences that you've had, you know, being, you know, telling jokes in Dubai and all these places around the world, opening for the biggest comedian ever. Yeah. Like the fact that you were with your boys, people whose back the 3 of you have each other's backs. You know what it's like to be out here in the trenches on the road. You know, it's hard work being a comedian, and one of the biggest memories you have is with guys that you look to as brothers. And I think that's a lesson. It's such a big lesson for people, because we think once we get to a destination, in terms of our life, or once I buy that yacht, once I buy that house, once I finally get on this person's platform, or once I can finally do this thing, that's what I want. Meanwhile, you're overlooking the thing that, you know, could be the most cherished memory or the most cherished experience of your life.
It is. And the fact that it's not just mine, you know what I mean? If you ask them, I guarantee you they both will say that. Like, that day was just incredible. We laughed so hard that and as comedians, people always go, what makes you guys laugh? It's weird because we are around comedy so much that most of the time my friends are like, we don't really see you laugh. We just hear you say hilarious. My management team will be hearing me going, I'm like, that's hilarious, which is really me going, ha, ha, ha. But we've laughed so much that our laugh levels are low. So we just be like, oh, that's hilarious. Yo, that's funny. But we mean like what you're doing right there. We do. So to be knowing that all 3 of us were on the floor going, we can't, or we just throw ourselves down. Like, those are great memories. And me and Trix have a lot of those. Me and John Paul have a lot of those.
Man, I love that. I got to ask this because I know a lot of people are going to want to know, since you were talking about being on the road.
Yes.
What's it like being on the road and women being around and, like, people want to know what that like rock star life is like. Okay, Jay's on tour. Are there like groupies? Are there girls that like, come up to you after the show and like, hey, let's go back to the hotel? Like what happens in that world and how do you deal with that?
Man, what I will not do is the Think Like a Man book by Steve Harvey and Mashup Man's life. But it's so there because we allow people to forget their lives. When you go to a comedy show, whatever you're going through, be it stress, money, whatever it is, we allow you to forget that. And a lot of women want that to aspire in a moment. You know what I mean? So I would be lying if I was saying that comedians don't get offered women all the time, all the time. And usually the shows that they put us on are show then after party in LA. You understand what I mean? So you're in LA and you're at a show and there's an after party and you only know you're standing at the bar and you're like, good. They never play music like how they play it in Toronto, you know that. So you're just like, no. And there will always be a woman walking up going, what's your drink? And you're staying in a hotel at the venue. Like, it's just so weird that it plays itself like that. Now you're not supposed to, be cool with them because they're a fan. You want them to come back to the show next time. And the younger ones be probably like, I'm gonna hit that ass. But yeah, you're always placed in that position. It's not like rock stars. Rock stars get it like, we're coming to your room. These ones are a little more on the, hey man, I'd like to get to know you. Me and my friends think you're pretty funny. And you're like, oh really? Yeah, you want to go get something to eat after? Or you know what I mean? And I'm always about my belly, unfortunately. So I'm like, yeah, we get something to eat. And the best way as any advice for anyone that's in that situation is always eat something because then you can always use itis as your excuse.
You ate, I'm tired, I gotta go sleep.
I just need to go to sleep. Oh, I can help you. Now, if you come in my room, I ain't gonna get no sleep. So I'm not gonna tell you ain't nice. Like, you always complimenting them. I ain't gonna tell you ain't nice in a better day. Like, we always got that gift of gab. But I'm always like, get something to eat. So when I go to Montreal, I part with my guy. Like, you always have a guy in that city. Because, gentlemen, ladies, I say this to you all the time, ladies. If you have a man in your life, whether they be an entertainer or not, always be friends with one of their friends. And I say this because one of those friends are the ones that help you get on the straight and narrow when you're thinking as a man with your head. You understand what I mean? There's always good to have a guy that's just like, hey, man, I'm not gonna say anything. That's a fine girl right there. But you got so-and-so at home, and you ain't want to mess that up. Like, that ain't a bum cracking your moment. That's just a dude just going, hey, I can see you've had enough drinks. She's gorgeous. The food's great. You're great. Is it worth it? So always be friends with one of your man's friends is a good advice. And for us, like it's not near worth all of that. You know what I mean? When you go out of town, but it's not easy. I'm being straightforward. Guys are probably listening going, come on, Jay, it ain't easy. It isn't easy, especially when you circle the city again or you're coming back again. Like, that's when your career is good enough that you're doing Vegas 3 times a year, LA 2 times a year. You know what I mean? That allows someone to be like, well, I got to meet him the last time. This time I'm coming. I'm like, hey. You know what I mean? It's different. So it's not easy. I hope I answered your question the best way to let you know that it's out there. But I'm going to be very honest with you. I decline it because I know what comes from it. You get what I mean? And it ain't worth it. And I like early flights. I like to get back home early. So my flights are always like, especially when it's LAX, you get to the airport, like your body's still at 6 a.m. You know what I mean? 5 a.m.
So how does your wife deal with all that? Like,
you know what? She's been very supportive. You know what I mean? She's very supportive. Even when there's times where like you'll come to a show and there's like 7 girls in front, she ain't gonna be like, excuse me. She's just gonna be like, hi, I'm here with my cousin or my girl. When you done, you know what I mean? She's been through seeing these girls that feel that they just want to get up there on stage and be like, but she understands now that you got to hug and take pictures and be all up on it. And they'll be like, mwah, mwah, 2 kisses and you know what I mean? But she's actually learned it. Like in the beginning, it wasn't easy for her. You know what I mean? It was kind of like all these people want him. Like, that girl wants him. That girl
Right.
fully wants him.
Right.
Like, yeah, you know, girls got that radar where they know, and you're like, what? See, I can say the same for you. I'm sure.
Yeah.
And we're not ugly guys. You know what I mean?
So how did you get to that point with your wife? How did you guys get to that point where she's just more understanding and accepting? Like, how did that kind of work out?
I think it kind of comes from money. Here's my son.
I see.
I know you're on something, but I want to be you know what? Funny to get to that point. You know, I think it was more her. I'm not even going to say I had anything to do with it. I think it's more her just going, you know what? He's got dreams, and I won't even lie. I don't even think she was into the dream when it first started. You know what I mean?
Same with me.
She kind of came into the game like later when I'm getting 500 people. And
same thing, brother.
Yeah. So I'm like, so she's like, wait a minute. I've been home and you got good? Like, I'm like, no, I've been good. You know what I mean? I always made you laugh. But she's seeing the corporate world. She's seeing the hustle and fail on the girl group. You know what I mean? So she was just like, this is what he does. But when she gets out here now, and now it's like, okay, I'm coming to the show. Like, she wasn't like at all the shows. You know what I mean? But then she's like coming to one, and she's like, okay, why are 15 girls around you? And then at the show, those 15 girls ain't seen nobody around you. So they're like,
that's right.
Wow, I'm gonna shoot my shot.
Right,
you know?
right.
So, you know, it took her, and I must admit, I gotta credit her. It took her a while to be able to understand that. You know what I mean? I have a party. I can't walk through my own party without somebody whining on me. That's impossible. Like, it's impossible. But she got to know I got to play it up. Be like, whoa, you too good. Like, you can't be a type of woman that's going to be like, okay, why did that girl whine on you? Like, I can't stop the girl from whining on me. And she just brought 15 friends to my party, and it's her birthday. And I kind of need that. You kind of need that, because the whole cars we got, food I be buying, comes from that same girl that whined on me for a second. So it's just, you know what I mean, Danny, as men, we got to just play it right. Greater men than us in this world have gone through the same problems and issues. It's how you handle yourself respectfully, respect your home. You know what I mean? Come home every night. You got them cats. Don't ever disrespect your home. My mother always told me before she died, always respect the woman. So, you know what I mean? If we know it, there's cats out there be like, yeah, I'm just not coming home tonight. Hey, I'm not coming home. I was at my boy's house, we're drinking. Like, dude, go home every night. Like, nobody can walk up to you and be like, yo, so you out here in these streets, you ain't going home at night?
Especially with social media now, you know, it's so easy for people to post all of these things. And I think having a strong, like, and this is the other thing too, you know, you need a strong partner in your life, and they're not going to believe in your goals and dreams in the beginning. And they shouldn't. They're your goals and your dreams. They shouldn't believe it. But what I often tell people is progress equals belief. The more progress you make on your goals and your dreams, the more you actually believe you can do it, and the more your partner and other people believe that you can do it. So if someone's not on board with you right now, that's okay. You just limit what you say to them about your goal and your dream.
Exactly.
And you just work on it.
Distract that dream. You know what I mean? Because you want them to believe in it, but they will. They will. When you don't expect the success to come like this. You don't want someone to be like, oh, you could be anything, baby. You can. You're like, come on, man. I'm shit-faced right now. What you mean I can do everything I can? I didn't ask for a cheerleader. You know what I mean? Sometimes you and we get into that rut. You're like, man, I need another book. And I don't want to say what I said in my first book. And the words start sounding repetitive. And I don't know if I can do this. No, you can do that, babe. You got that deadline. I believe in you. And they leave you in the room. Then you're like,
we all need a pep talk, man. We all need a pep talk.
We need a pep talk, not a cheerleader. And that's why you a life coach. Like, I'm not even fronting people. Daddy will call me and say shit in like 60 seconds, not 60. He'll say it in 34 seconds. I will take a minute and a half to respond back to him. I'm like, how does this dude dice this shit up in like 30 seconds? But what it says is win, and you do this, that, and then come back. Dude, I was trying to say that, but I needed more downs.
Because you're used to stretching things out. You know, you go on stage, it's like.
I'm like, see, what I'm feeling is, I'll write back and be like, yo, Daddy, what's up, man? Let me tell you what I'm going through now. I'm going through. He was like, yeah, that's simple. Like, just You need to do Cole's Notes. That's what your name should be. Daddy Cole's Notes.
Daddy Cole's Notes. I might have to do that, man. Straight shot, no chaser. Here you go.
Yeah, straight, man. You want that heady? Don't put that on there. Don't put that on there. Wow. Like, you can make it work. I'm impressed.
So I got two more questions for you. Oh, before those two questions.
Yeah.
Online Clubhouse. We were talking about Clubhouse earlier.
Right.
Why don't you tell people like what that is and like why you're on it and stuff like that?
Clubhouse is a group of people, which I'm sure started off, from what I hear, it started off as a pitching network for people looking for funding for their projects, and they were able to talk all together and say what they think about the pitch in a timeline. And I thought that was genius, but I didn't even know about it. Like, they've done a great job of keeping it secret. And what's nice about it is anyone who hears about it, you can only get on by nomination of one person through an invite from an individual that's on that platform, which makes you very careful with who you choose to bring on it. I'm not even a week on it, but I really have gotten and soaked up so much information. I'm only in the pitch rooms and the people that are talking about LA pitches, TV pitches, movie pitches, because that's all I really care about. I'll dabble into the comedy room, which has been a little unfulfilling for me, because I'm like a bunch of comedians that know each other, and they're talking about particular days that they were performing together, and they're talking about stage time, and you got to work your way up and things that wasn't my story. Like, you heard my story. So I don't want to hear that you got to get 5 minutes and then you move to 7 and I'm a headliner if I draw people. All of that was crap to me. So it is a very great platform for information. You just got to find it.
True.
So you still got to Google while on it, but I have found it tremendous. I've popped into some rooms where poets were speaking, and it's good to see that we have a little Canadian contingent. You kind of smile when you see the person you know that's in there, and then you ask yourself, how'd they get in here? And then you kind of know that they're a mover or shaker. You know what I mean? There ain't nobody going, hi, Jay Martin, like they put on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. So it's pretty good. How's it been for you?
Yeah, I just started on it. So I just jumped in a couple of rooms, and there's some very inspirational people in there, man. There's a lot of connectors. I like that. And people who just don't want anything. They just want to share and connect.
Help you. Yes. I made friends with a lady that I need to speak to. And to be honest with you, I would pay to speak to her, because the knowledge she was spitting was so good that there was only like maybe 10 of us in the room, and 5 out of the 10 like asked her questions, and I was actually nervous to ask her because I was like, I want more, but I want to know, she might be expensive. We're in these times, but they're in America. They don't have a serve check. I would be like, can I pay you $100 for an hour of your time so I can trust you, give you an NDA, tell you what I'm doing, what I need to do.
Right.
That I would pay for. You know what I mean? She's that good.
Wow. It's an awesome platform.
It is.
All right, man. I got 2 final questions that I ask everybody.
Good.
So the first question is, what does grind or hustle mean to you?
Oh, man. Grind and hustle. I'm going to put them together because they're one and the same if you really know what you're doing, because you can't hustle and be lazy. You can't grind and not hustle. And straightly, what it means to me is seeing what you want to get to in a goal and doing everything you can possible to get to that goal within your reason. You know what I mean? And that's turning over stones that you're not used to turning over. Finding comfort in uncomfortable situations. And it's not going to be an easy road, but that's the real grind and hustle. If it came to you easy, there was no grind and hustle in it. You understand what I mean? That's when these guys, oh, why aren't you doing a Brook Bucket party? Because there's nothing for me to go, Brook Bucket party, and there's 500 to 1,000 people there. That's not grinding and hustling in no way. I like grind and hustle because there's a fulfillment that comes from it. After you've completed it, you realize the stages that you've gone through. So when that movie comes out, Destination Wedding, no one can ever say that I didn't grind it out. It's come from 2013. I wrote this movie and we're still firing away. So when I get this movie, nobody can be like, oh, you didn't put the work in. This has been a 7-year journey. And I'm grinding and hustling to make it work. I've had people that are like, I'll buy it from you for $200,000 or I'll give you this. And I was like, nah, I want to grind and hustle this out and put it to be my soul plane, my first movie starring Jay Martin. And you're going to believe it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm going. So that's what hustle and grind means to me.
Man.
Grinding out what you really want and getting to that point and making it an uncomfortable and hard road to get there, but getting there. So that's what I feel.
Oh man. And the last question, what does gratitude mean to you?
Listen, we talked about this earlier. There's my fan base is loyal, and loyal meaning, I've said it before, me and you have said it, we can do a test run where I could ask for something in public and I get it. That gratitude is not something I take for granted. I show so much gratitude to my fans. You've been at the shows. There's never been, later guys, it's always been, thank you so much for coming. Our next show is this day. I love you guys and I mean it. Gratitude to me is your receipt. So you buy something in the store and you get a receipt. You understand what I mean? I give you all of me and you give me your support and applause, and that's gratitude. I would have nothing without my fan base. Trust me. We wouldn't have an interview here. Like, let's cut it off. I got friends. I'll always have the best friends that I believe I have in the world. My friends are amazing and I'm grateful for them. But gratitude to the whole brand of Jay Martin is what you said. When you go, yo, I'm trying to talk to my man Jay Martin, what you heard before we actually met. He's a straight dude, man. That guy keeps it real. And that's because I went all this way to not burn people. You understand what I mean? There's times where I didn't have money to pay people what I could have paid them or what they should have been paid, but they could never say they didn't get anything. And if they didn't get anything, I tried. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in my head going, there's nobody I really robbed. You understand what I mean?
Right,
I'm not my guy. So my gratitude is to my fan base that keep it going. And yes, for all of the things that are obvious, which is our family, health, our God, you know what I mean? Being able to be on the straight and narrow and know that, you know what I mean? Most people in the city and where you reside have high regard for who you are as a person.
Yeah. Wow, Jay, we went 2 hours. I've never gone 2 hours before with anybody.
Sorry.
But I was like, no,
Sorry,
this is like, trust me, there's gonna be, we're both gonna get so many messages from this because, you know, I just want to thank you for coming on the platform and being so open and honest, because everything that we do is not, you just said it, it's not about us. We can have these conversations in private, but I promise you, there's so many people that are going to get so much value from this, especially in a time like this when people need it. So I just want to thank you for coming on here, brother, and being so open and so honest.
I told you already, this one right here is my eulogy because it is everything I ever had. Like, no one can say that Danny Stone's podcast that they didn't hear real Jay. Like, I've told everything real, the good, the dirty, the growing up. You've heard it all. Like, I hope I'm not missing anything, but you nailed it. And that's going to show the type of person you are. You're a phenomenal interviewer. You allow people to speak. You tell the stories. I always had respect for you. You know, in my books, you're up here. But if I can grow another half an arm, arm replacement, I would put you way up here.
Same, brother. Same. Thank you so much. Any final words? Let them know where they can follow you. What else?
People continue to support both of us. You can go to my website, which is jmartinent.com. Follow me on. I need a little more followers to get to 10,000. Like, that matters. I'll take 9,000 fans over 10,000 followers. So I need to get a little bit more. Hopefully you tell a couple more friends to follow me so I can get that certified supposed check mark. Follow me on Instagram, jmartincomic. Facebook, that's there. And just look out. And I know what I'm going to ask. Keep us all in your prayers. And I'm hoping, let's hope for, to me, I want to go into 2021 with a new energy. And my family lost 8 members in 2020.
Wow.
My 8. And I don't mean like,
my condolences,
distance. Like, we have a family chat where 8 are gone. 4 of my father's siblings, 3 of my father's siblings, nieces, nephews, from little 9-year-olds right up.
Wow.
Like, we got hit every month. We got hit. We thought there's something on us. So it's a rough year, and I'm so surprised I can say that for me, it's been one of the best years of my life.
Right.
You know what I mean? I got to turn 50 and make it here. My mother passed at 48. She didn't make it to 50. So I'm very blessed to make it to 50. And it's been a great year despite those bad things. So I want everyone to look at 2020-21 with a new energy. a new drive. And if you're inspired by Danny or myself, keep that inspiration going. And like you said, if people need someone to talk to round themselves with the people that surrounding around them that have like-mindedness, holla at your boys.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Thank you, Jay, for tuning in. Thank you, everybody, for following, for listening. You know, again, I always bring you amazing guests. Jay has been phenomenal. I hope that you can send us a direct message and let us know one of your biggest takeaways from the show. That's it for this episode of the Grind and Gratitude Show. I will catch you on the next episode.
Hey, people, I am out like Nate Robinson.
No, why you have to do that? Peace.